If I can grab your attention, please. Thank you very much. And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the PSI AGM for 2024. There are likely many of those here who may not know me, so let me introduce myself. My name is Oren McCarthy, and I'm the current PSI president, and as such, it falls to me to chair this meeting. So a warm greeting to those who do know me, and hi to those who don't. From all accounts, it's our third hybrid meeting, which, in my opinion, facilitates greater participation in the AGM, which is a good thing. I think one of the silver linings of the recent COVID epidemic. And I also welcome the development from a climate perspective, which is an issue close to my heart, and thankfully one of PSI's current strategic concerns, less transport emissions, which is a good thing. So another bonus for the hybrid format. May I also note that this is Saturday, I know, stating the obvious. Part of the weekend, again, stating the obvious. And a time when you guys should be kicking back and enjoying your weekend with a bit of relaxation and whatever else you do at the weekend. But here you are, participating in a formal but important AGM, and I think this deserves recognition. So thank you. As hybrid meetings involve a lot of technology, my fingers are crossed that will run smoothly. We are being supported by DV4 here in the back, our excellent digital media company. But as you know, with the best input, IT glitches can occur and do occur. So if they do, may I beg your patience as we frantically scamper to fix them. I might also add that I am prone myself to occasional cognitive hiccups or senior moments. So I will equally ask you to bear patience with me. Someone recently told me as president, I'm apparently older than Kamala Harris. So I'm in a bit of trouble there. We are joined in the room here by both voting and non-voting members, i.e. those who have voting rights and those who don't. Voting members are those who are graduate, chartered or fellow members, while non-voting members are either student or associate members. Meanwhile, online, we have two formats operating. There's the Zoom, and that is for all those with access to the Zoom are exclusively voting members. And for those non-voting members, they will have the opportunity of looking in via our YouTube link. I'll return to voting range in a little while. Also with us are my fellow PSI council officers, or at least a few of them, which is good, and who will hopefully help me field some of the maybe challenging and insightful questions that may be posed by the membership as the AGM proceeds. We also have some of our hardworking and at times underappreciated, dedicated PSI staff present who collectively make this AGM possible and who definitely have my appreciation. So thank you guys. As I mentioned earlier, DB4 or the Digital Media Agency who are here to take care of our digital needs. And apparently we also have our auditor, Patrick Sutton, online, who will join us to assist if needed with any questions related to our accounts and financial situation later on. Finally, members of the PSI will be aware by now, or should be aware by now, that our CEO, Sheena Horgan, has left the role of CEO to pursue other opportunities. Sheena has made a critical contribution to advancing our strategic goals and advocating for the discipline of psychology during her time with the Society. So I'd like to wish Sheena the very best in her future role and thank her for her positive and valuable contributions to PSI over the last year. Now, to some basic housekeeping issues. First and foremost, if you're going to leave the room, you need to go somewhere briefly. I'm going to ask you if you can leave on the sides, basically that door there or that door there, basically not cut across the camera work and ruin my lovely shot down here. So that'd be the first thing. If you also have phones, if you put them on mute, that'd be very helpful. And again, if you have to take a phone call, you might exit by the same kind of door that we just flagged there. For those who are attending online via Zoom, I can ask you to please ensure that your camera is off and your mic is muted. The mute mic is just there to help reduce potential for background noise and distracting noise or potentially embarrassing stuff that happens in the background. I'm sure we've all been caught in something like that at some stage in our lives. And to use Zoom users, please ensure you use your full name. You type it out, it's visible on screen so we can see it. I think you all have anyway, looking here. We need to know who's asking questions and who are voting on various items. Please also note that the meeting will be recorded and that's just purely for minute-taking purposes. As soon as the minutes are taken and sanctioned and verified, it will be deleted. You all will have access, hopefully, to an agenda pack. They have been issued out to you, and they include a standing orders, agenda, procedure documents, motions, and election candidate information. For those who are present here, you'll find a kind of a copy of the entire process here on your chair, including all other items you're going to need. And for those who are attending via Zoom and YouTube, you will find the AGM pack on the PSI website. We would have sent you an email with a direct link to that, which is the most straightforward way to access the pack. Otherwise, you need to check in as a member. And I would suggest if you do that, you'll need to use the search function and type in PSI Annual General Meeting 2024. That will bring you to the page you need, and all the kind of items you need from the pack are there. We operate a roving mic procedure here. So if I invite you to make a comment, because you raised your hands, please wait till the mic gets to you and that you receive the mic. And then please, before you make your statement or a comment or whatever, state your full name before making that contribution. The mic is very important, as if you don't use it, those tuning in online won't be able to hear you. So you might think of the mic as a way of unmuting yourself here in the room. Moreover, we won't have a recording of what you said for later minutes. And to you guys tuning in online, please use the raise hand function. I'm confident you're well familiar with the facility on Zoom. Should be by now. The system will allow me to see your raised hand here on my monitor, and I will get you to in due course to invite you to make a contribution. And please, again, state your name. That the in-person attendees will not be able to see who is speaking. I can see, but the crowd here in the audience won't be able to know who it is. Finally, to you online attendees, you guys can use the chat function also on Zoom and type in your contribution or questions. Lisa here will monitor those for me. If she's able to answer your questions, she will do so directly to you. And for all other queries, she will direct them to me, and I'll offer them to the AGM attendees on your behalf. And finally, for those on YouTube, you can email your questions. Oops, I think this is actually in the next thing here. Oh, it is. Someone clicked for me. You can email your questions to the office manager at psychologicalsociety.ie. Susan will then forward them to me via my WhatsApp on my phone, and I'll share your contribution or questions to the AGM attendees. Now, have I left anything out there? Lots of items will require a proposer and a seconder. And what we hope to do is thank you. That's all I can use the clicker. Where is it gone? Here we go. Lots of items are going to require a proposer and a seconder. And what I'll be doing is I'll be looking for a proposer within the room here. So again, hand up. I'll call on you. State your name. And likewise, then I'm going to be looking for a seconder from the online crowd. So again, state your full name at that. One of the things I have to check before we do start is that we have a quorum, which should be 25. I'm assuming we have at least 25 in the room. Yes. And when you add in quite a significant number online, I think we're probably well clear of that. So we're happy that we have a quorum? Yes? Okay. Again, as part of your pack, you would have got an agenda. I won't read it out. We'll go through it one by one anyway. However, just for the record, I would like to look for somebody within the room to propose the agenda meeting. And I see someone's hands up over here. You can get a mic to him. I'm afraid we have to go through this. I know who it is. It's Cal. But for the
Cal McDonough.
happy to propose. And could I get somebody online to put their hands up? I see Ian O'Grady there. I wonder if he could be, oops, Ian came in first. So if he could.
Ian O'Grady.
Oh, delayed there. That was scary hearing myself back like that. Thank you. Okay. So where's my clicker again? Oh. We did say about glitches. I'm glad the IT glitched before I did. Am I good to go? No echo. Phew. Okay. So we're happy with this agenda here. Fair enough. First thing I need to do is to engage in the appointment of tellers. And I'm going to propose two PSI staff members as tellers. One, and I'm hoping I'm going to get this name right, is Yadra. I won't even try the second name, our events coordinator. And Susan Fox, our office and finance manager. These people will be responsible for counting the votes, both in the room and online, and then we'll have a returning officer who will tally them up and bring them back to me. So again, as before, I need a proposer from the room. Someone can put the hands up for that. We've got two there. Get the mic too. Want to keep your hands up there? There you go. Just state your name.
Rebecca Nolan.
You're proposing. Thank you very much. And I'm going to go out to the online crew again. And so can someone maybe second that? Looks like I have a Kevin Murphy there first.
Yeah. Kevin Murphy.
To the online crew again. And so can someone maybe second that? Looks like I have a Kevin Murphy there first.
Yeah, Kevin Murphy. I
had been very worried this is going to be a very short meeting and we're going to have a long wait between now and Cora, but it looks like 1 hour could turn into 2. Okay. So we agreed to her two there. Okay, so we have our tellers appointed. Okay. Likewise, I'm going to take, again, you will have access to those, the 2023 AGM minutes to have been read. Before we look for a proposer and seconder, I will invite any kind of comments on those minutes, any changes, corrections, typos. On those minutes, any changes, nobody in the room. Anyone online? Any concerns about? I have Hugh McGarvin's hand up. Can Hugh be allowed to? Anyone online? Concerns about? Yeah, Hugh McGovern's name's hand is up there. Can he be allowed to speak? He's not able.
Yes, hello, can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me?
I can, if need be. Okay. So maybe I could just take a second from the room. We were hoping to be able to spread it across both. So can I have a seconder maybe for, well, we haven't even invited a proposer yet. Any comments was mainly what we're at the moment. Any concerns? Are we happy? If no hands go up or whatever, I assume we're all in agreement with these minutes and we're happy to propose and second them. Yeah, and nothing online. So who in the room might propose?
Katerina Timilakova.
Proposing. Thank you, Katerina. And will I go in the room as well for a second or until we can get the online stuff? Yep, someone in the back there.
Laura Neme.
Thank you very much indeed. So let's leave them behind. We have two counting staff, I suppose, and then we also need to have a returning officer. And I'm going to make the proposal that the PSI staff member Lisa Stafford, down in the corner there, our head of communication, as the returning officer on the voting for council elections and the various motions we have up for consideration. Can I have a proposer from the room for that? Do you have up here?
JF Leader, I propose.
Great. It's working now. And could I have a seconder from the online crew? That sounds like Sharon is there. Sharon Lambert.
Yeah, Sharon Lambert, second.
The online crew. Sharon's there. She's closed again.
Yeah, Sharon, second.
Okay, got to hear that one. Okay, so we will happily accept Lisa as our returning officer. Thank you. Okay, we could hear you online. So first order of business, I suppose, for today at the moment is our council election for 2025 through to 2027. The following people are due to retire from council at the end of this year. And they are Anne Keogh, who's our past president, Mark Smith, Ethne Longbirth. Thank you. I should know that by now. Louise Higgins, our student rep. Louise Higgins, Rebecca Moore. I told you to have a cognitive glitch. Louise Higgins, one of our co-optees, Rebecca Marie Nolan, who was our student co-optee, and Sharon Lambert. You will note that all of these are actually eligible for re-election, and I believe a number of them are going forward for it anyway. There are 3 places already vacant, therefore there's a total of 5 places available on council for the election, of which there will be 8. We have 8 nominees received. So first and foremost, may I just say that for those council members who are retiring this year, heartfelt thank you for your hard work and commitment over the years to helping PSI develop and grow as a membership society. It was a pleasure to work with you. And if you're not coming back for re-election, or if you do not get re-elected, if you are, may I wish you all the best in your future endeavours and trust that you will remain involved with PSI in some capacity. So the nominees for council election for 2025 and 27 are as follows: Verge Conroy, I should say. Louise Higgins is back, obviously not put off from being co-opted. And Keogh is also back, looking for re-election. Sharon Lambert is there as well. And then we have Bláithín McMahon, Geraldine McNamara, Ethne Longford, and Ian O'Grady. Information of all the needs is available and has been available for a while in the PSA members dashboard, where it's still accessible, and anyone here will have a hard copy of that information there as well. My understanding, let me just see if it's on the next page. Yeah, should come to this. Is that for those online, when I open the voting, you will see the council nominees on your screen listed. You may only vote for one, just the one, unfortunately, by selecting their name in the tick box. And when I close it, that will disappear, and we'll end up counting it quietly here on the side. For those in the room, my sense is you're going to have one of these on your chair. Again, likewise, you get to choose just one. And when you're finished, you might put your hand up and they shall be collected and counted later. So I am going to open the voting now and give you a minute or two to reflect and choose who you think will be the best. I'll just give another minute for those online. So feel rushed. Any idea how the online stuff is going? Okay. And I will now declare the voting window has closed. Thank you. Okay, they're going to be quietly collated, and we'll get back to the actual result after our motions and after a number of other items that we'll get through. So the first thing we obviously have, and in your pack there's a president report, an honorary secretary report, a member secretary report, and an international liaison officer report as part of our annual report 2023. I think everyone is here. Maybe Dean isn't. Is the only one I possibly not available. I'm going to take all of those reports as read. But I will also now invite anyone to make a question or an observation in respect to any of those reports. So maybe starting off with the President's report. Any comments or observations? No? Okay, the Honorary Secretary report. Any comments or observations? Nope. The Membership Secretary report. Any comments or observations? No. And the International Liaisons Officer report. Any comments or information? No. I'm just going to also check with any, both Anne, Damien, Dean, or John. If you want, I don't know if you want to say anything with respect to those reports, or are you happy what's you have written and want to leave it just as such, or add anything additional? No. Okay. We move on then. Probably the most important report is the Honorary Treasury Report and the presentations of the 2023 accounts. My understanding is our auditor is online and will also be available to answer any questions. And Michael Drum, I believe, is also here. So before I propose ratifying these accounts, I'll open the floor to any questions and ditto online with respect to the Honorary Treasury's report and the annual audited accounts. Any concerns or questions? Wow. This usually one that gets a few questions. Michael. Okay. You obviously wrote an excellent report, Michael. Well done. Okay, it's no questions. I will need to get a proposer from the room to propose. Just wait for the mic to go to you. I think Mitchell there.
Mitchell Fleming propose.
Thank you.
Attorney.
Are we able to get somebody online? Can we invite somebody online? So could I invite somebody online to be seconder for that? Maria Corrigan? If you just like to state your name.
Maria Corrigan.
And seconding. Excellent. Thank you. I'll take those as ratified. Now, we have just 3 motions. One of them is quite extensive, unfortunately. And we had them down as motion 1, 2, and 3. And we rearranged them now to motion 3 will actually be first because it kind of, if we accept it, it influences the other ones in some ways. We explain in a moment. They all came. I mean, everyone's open to submit motions to it, but the entire 3 motions came from our governance review group, which is being chaired by Damien Lowry. When it comes to these votes, you have a choice of either voting for, voting against, or abstaining. Again, I will be calling out those in turn: for, against, abstain, and I think you have these cards here in line. You can put your hands up. Please keep them up until they're actually counted. And then likewise for against and for abstain. The same will be the situation online. Hands up when I call out for, hands up when I call out against, and hands up when I call out abstain. And if you can remember to take your hand down after you vote between various votes. Not necessary. Oh, they have a poll. Makes it very easy. Thank you. You guys got it easy. All right. So, it's all here for me anyway. Online's get it for, against, and abstain. And you've only got the one option online, which is grand. Okay. Happy with that? Any questions about that? Get on to the motions themselves. Motion 3 is quite a large one. And I might just call on Cal McDonough to maybe give an explanation and rationale for why we're presenting this for consideration. If you can come up here. No, and come up to the podium. Thank you.
This one looks long, but hopefully it's fairly straightforward. Naturally, PSI's constitution has evolved over the years. There have been amendments. That means that our use of gender pronouns in the constitution is pretty inconsistent. At times it refers to he or she, he/she, he, she, they. So we're proposing to make our use of gender pronouns more consistent. And in doing that, we'd like to make the language of the constitution more gender inclusive to avoid language that could be interpreted as discriminatory against different sexes or gender identities. In doing so, we proposed approximately 40 changes to the constitution. There's a range of different ways of doing this. In some documents, gender neutral pronouns like they could be used. In PSI's constitution, we felt that could be ambiguous. It could imply a plural at stages. and could be subject to interpretation. So with each of these changes, what we've suggested to do is to replace the pronouns which are there with a noun or a proper noun, which avoids changing the meaning of any of the clauses. It simply changes the language. So largely it's a symbolic gesture, but it feels like the right thing to do. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. As I mentioned, it's about 40 proposed changes we've gone through with fine tooth comb. If you have any particular questions about any of those individual items, please ask away. Yep. You just need the microphone.
Wait for the mic. Yeah, thank you.
Rosalind McIlvany. It's not a question, it's simply typos. So in a number of places, the red text is not struck through. So it's just to be really clear that the red text, the intention is to delete it.
Thank you, Rosaline. That's a really good spot.
But there's a few of them, page 27.
Yeah, I can see there, page 27, 23.2.
23.2, and there's a few more of them. I mean, I think if you go through it in general, it's.
And on 28.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so just had a suggestion from JF Leader there that we'll just state for the purpose of the minutes that any text in red is a deletion. And you feel that covers us, Rosaline? You're saying perfect. Okay, great. Thanks so much for spotting that. Good catch.
Any other questions or concerns? Doesn't seem to be any online either. Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll open the poll for this one online, and you can vote on that. Right here, I'm going to first start off with asking for a show of hands for those who are in favor of, so for the motion. Again, hold your hands up there until such time our tellers has a chance to count them. For some reason, most people are sitting on the left-hand side of the conference room. You guys nod to me when you're happy. You're happy over there. Give me a heads up now when you're happy. Arms are getting tired. Good. Okay, you can drop your hands. Hands up those who are against. Okay, that's an easy count now. Okay, and finally, hands up for those who wish to abstain. 1. We'll just wait a moment now and we'll see as the count is made. Okay, if you could close, please, the online poll. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, it looks like motion 3 has been passed. We have a total of 73 for, 4 against, and 3 abstaining. So motion 3 has been accepted. Moving on to the next one. And I'm going to invite Damien up to give an explanation behind this one, if I may.
Thank you, Oren, and thanks, Cal. I think I do want to just introduce this first by thanking some people who have put in a lot of work on this particular issue, and indeed kind of broader governance reform that have come before me and others. Susanne Gearan, Katarina Timulakova, Andrew Kennedy, and I'm sure many more whose names aren't coming to mind for me in this particular moment. But I'd also like to kind of express gratitude while I have the opportunity to fellow council members and particularly the Governance Reform Working Group subcommittee members, particularly John Francis Leader, Cal McDonough, Sarah Cassidy, Albert Ostov, all of whom I see in the room today, which is lovely. And I know there are others too who have contributed, and particularly non-subcommittee members who have informed this particular motion and proposal for change, who have significant expertise, which they would never themselves brag about, but we all know it and acknowledge it in relation to them. So particularly Dr. Sarah Casey, Principal Specialist, Clinical Neuropsychologist in Vincent's Hospital, a colleague of mine in Tala University Hospital, Dr. Garrett McDermott, Chair of the Division of Neuropsychology, and another long-standing colleague across 2 different sites, Mater Hospital and now Tala Hospital, and a man in his own right who is, I guess it's hard to fathom how he does what he does, but Professor Brennan Kelly, who's a consultant liaison psychiatrist and much, much more, but who also has a significant amount of expertise in relation to the recent enactment of the Assisted Decision-Making Act. Just before I kind of go through briefly, or as briefly as I can, which is perhaps not brief at all, but the motion, it's similar to Cal's, an attempt to, I guess, amend 3 different clauses in one fell swoop. And I do see myself a typo or an error within the motion, which I'm at fault for, and I can only assume that I was writing it or finalising it before the deadline late at night when the 3 kiddies had been put to bed. It says that the Assistant Decision-Making Capacity Act 2015 came into effect on the 26th of July 2023, when in fact it was the 26th of April. So just to clarify that before I field questions in relation to it, if it was indeed picked up. So the 3 existing clauses, it's really a motion to propose changing 3 particular clauses, which include the phrase unsound mind, which is a phrase that had a legal basis and footing, but it traces back not even decades, but centuries, and it has since become outdated. And the ADMA has in effect made it defunct. So to, I guess, clarify and address that ambiguity or risk for misinterpretation, however big or small, that's the basis of the motion at hand. So clauses 15.1.2, which relates to a cessation of general PSI membership, clause 19.3, which relates to voting rights of PSI members, and then finally clause 24.1.4, which relates to the option, at least for the society and council or board, to disqualify a council member if they become of unsound mind. Ultimately, the rationale, as I've alluded to already, is to just address the phrase unsound mind, which originates really and is anchored in a past era, and with different strands of legislation that refer or allude to it. And the ADMA has since modernised that and is now obviously active and recognised on the Irish statute books. And decision-making capacity or unsound mind phrase kind of infers or implies that there's a binary ability in all of us to either be of sound mind or unsound mind. And obviously the ADMA recognises that that's simply not the case. So the proposals seek to address the incongruity of the existing PSI constitutional clauses with a modern interpretation of decision-making capacity. We have debated this at length, and the process has relied heavily upon those I've mentioned before. And each amendment has common but slightly differing rationale. So I'll just try to spell those out if I can briefly, which is contained within the pack that you'll all have received. But with regard to Article 15.1.2, it's proposed that PSI membership should not be denied to any person on the basis of decision-making capacity, which in our view seems at variance with the 2015 Act and indeed broader human rights law and entitlement. In relation to Article 19.3, the proposal seeks to align the nomenclature contained within the Constitution with the current legislation, and perhaps is more elaborately redefined or amended, I should say, and to honour a member's right to vote in the society's elections or processes wherever that member is entitled or eligible to do so in a manner that is compliant with the current legislation. And the proposed amendment also recognises that a member with appropriate decision-making capacity arrangements in place requires that the society recognises this and honours those decision-making support accommodations provided for in legislation. With regard finally to Article 24.1.4, this one perhaps caused us the most, difficulty might not be the right word, but certainly it was a bit more challenging because the society ultimately wanted to, in the event, unlikely and highly unlikely event, which I don't believe has arisen before, that a council member with fiduciary responsibilities was to suddenly or rather abruptly develop a condition or acquire a brain injury that may impact on their decision-making capacity, that the society would retain a mechanism ultimately to address this scenario sensitively and respectfully. And it seeks to improve the existing clause, but recognise that the Constitution may benefit from further review in this regard. I'm not proposing this is the finished article. I do understand that it has previously been proposed by Andrew Kennedy and Katarina, as best I understand it, possibly as early as 2 or 3 years ago, but the legislation has since been enacted. We appreciate that this might not be the finished article, but it is an improvement on what currently exists. So I'm happy to field any questions if indeed there are any. Like silence.
Any? We have one, I think. Hand up. Possibly another type of hawk spotted.
So this is the uncontentious part of it. In 15.1.2, 2 pieces. If the member is declared a bankrupt or makes a composition, I think it should be makes, the S in make. The previous iteration had S.
Yep.
And then the its creditors. I just wonder, in terms of the language that was used in motion 3, which I thought was a really good compromise, that person, I wondered about, rather than its creditors, I'm not sure I like being referred to as it. So that person's creditors. Just a suggestion.
I am happy to accept that proposed amendment, if indeed that's appropriate to do so. As long as it's minuted. Okay, so just to clarify then, as I understand it, and feel free, Rosaline, to correct me. So in relation to 15.1.2, the proposed amended insertion would be if the member is declared bankrupt or makes, as opposed to make, a composition with that member's creditors as opposed to its creditors, which I know is taken from the existing clause, but that member's or that person's creditors. Okay.
Thank you. Was there a more contentious one? Nope. Okay. Any other comments or concerns? Data for online people? I don't see anything there or there. Okay. Well, then we'll proceed towards voting, if I may. So you might open the online poll. Here it goes. The online poll is open. And we'll do the in-person one. So I'm going to call first for those who are in favor or for this motion. Please raise your cards. And I hope you're nice and strong so we can get them all counted. you happy with that? Okay, you can drop your hands now. I now call on those who are against to raise their hand on the card. Doesn't seem like anyone in the room. And finally, for those who wish to abstain, please raise your hands now. Okay, thank you. Now, we might close the option online and do our count. Take a moment. Right, so thank you. Okay, the votes are in for this motion number 1, and the following has been recorded. And those for 78, those against 0, and those abstaining 3. So that motion 1 is carried. And finally, motion 2. And I might call on John Francis to step up and give the rationale behind the desire to change this.
Thank you very much, Oren, and hello, everyone. Great to see you all. Those of you I know, great to see you again, and lovely to meet a few new people. That's what's nice about AGMs. It's not just all business. So Damien has mentioned the work that the Governance Review Working Group has been doing, and some hardworking members there. And thank you very much to you, Damien, for leading that. It's not a particularly easy task, particularly because it's, by definition, an awful lot of different strands to it. There's different topics, there's different, it's quite legalistic at places, but it's also practical, because that's the problem. A lot of the time we go to use these mechanisms and they maybe just don't work in a particular context, but we don't have the discretion to just do it any way we want to. We have to follow the Constitution. So this is the third motion that's come from some of the considerations from the Governance Review Working Group. So in my role this year as Honorary Secretary, there have been a number of processes, including the elections, of course, for council members we've already seen here today, that really massively benefit, as all of you who are online right now can appreciate, from being hybrid. The fact that they could be online or in person, either or both, that flexibility is good. Needless to say, the pandemic really pushed that in terms of necessity, but also in terms of appreciating how it can actually practically be done and some of the online tools available. So in previous AGMs, there have been some motions to change the Constitution in order to allow for this, essentially, so voting online and or in person. However, one of the things that wasn't amended was the voting by council for the position of president-elect for PSI. That wasn't changed. Not entirely sure why. Perhaps one of the reasons is it hasn't been a particularly competitive role for a number of years, so maybe that's part of it. Gladly, that's starting to change. Democracy is in the air, and that's exactly what we want. In any case, it was an irregularity that it wasn't changed. So that's what this motion is, essentially. It's one just to bring this particular voting process in keeping with the others, essentially, including all of council's work, because council members are often online, or they can be in person, or it can alternate. And that, of course, is very nice for inclusivity. It's good for accessibility. It's good for distance. No geographical discriminations need to be there. So there's a whole lot of advantages in it. And it makes sure that there's a good, strong, healthy quorum when there's conversations, rather than people, because of, it could be childcare duties, it could be work, it could be anything else, needing to be then away from the conversation. So that's nice. So we vote on all kinds of things. So this really shouldn't be the exception, I'd suggest. So specifically, the proposal is, you can see that there's 26(1)(3) of the Constitution, has the word in red there, paper. So just to change that to form. So it doesn't need to be on paper, obviously. It can be a form digitally or physically. So that's one part of the proposal. The other is then 26(1)(4), the Constitution, to change the term ballot papers to guidance on how to cast their vote. So what the proposal here is not to just say digital, but to give the option. So of course it could be ballot papers if for any reason, I don't know, we have some sort of digital fallout or something like that, and we want to use paper, a reverse pandemic, that's totally okay as well. But it's not to suggest it has to be papers. It could be papers or it could be digital or some combination like we're doing here today, if that's what's appropriate. And then finally, 26(1)(5). So to delete the wording, return their ballots to the honorary secretary or the chief executive officer of the society in person. So to remove that, because again, in a digital system, that wouldn't necessarily be the case, and to add the wording, cast their vote electronically and or in person by, and then the time frame remains the same. That's the addition. So the reason we're not specifying the individuals there is because in-person voting, you obviously are handing something to somebody, but digitally there's just really nobody to give anything to. And if there is a person that it needs to be handed to, the previous modification, it says guidance on how to cast their vote. So at that point, the individuals will be specified. And we've also had actually a couple of years running. It's not uncommon for officers to then run for president-elect. So it may be that the honorary secretary is actually one of the candidates. That's happened a couple of times in recent years. So therefore, they need to recuse themselves anyway. And having that hard baked into the Constitution didn't seem to make sense. So they're the proposed amendments to normalize this with the rest of our voting procedures. Very happy to take any questions or give any clarifications.
No questions on the board? On the floor, no? Don't seem to be any online either.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, if that's the case, we'll go to voting. And again, if we could open up the voting for the online people. That's opened up. And for those of you in the room, if I may first call for a show of hands on those who are in favor or for the proposed change. Happy enough with that? Fair enough. You can drop your hands. I move now to those who are against this motion. Please raise your hands now. Okay. I don't see any hands up. And finally, those who wish to abstain from this vote. Okay. Happy enough. Okay, and then if you can remove the online option and close that vote. So the voting's closed. Lovely stuff. Thank you. Yeah, we have that as well. Excellent. Okay, motion 2. The results are as follows: for 87 votes, against 1, and abstain 1. So I declare motion 2 passed. Well done, you guys. Successful run through there. It's now time to announce the results for the votes for the 5 council places for 2025-2027. But before I do that, I'd just like to mention that we had our own council vote for a president-elect for next year. 2 people applied for that, and I just like to welcome Sarah Cassidy as our new president-elect for 2020. I won't embarrass you by dragging you up here to say a few words, but well done. Looking forward to working with you next year. I also now have the results of the votes for council nominees for next year as well. And the following have been successful. Number 1, Anne Kyo. Number 2, Sharon Lambert. Number 3, Blaheen McMahon. Number 4, Geraldine McNamara. And number 5, Ian O'Grady. So I'd like to, again, congratulate all of those on their successful voting in for next year's. I'm looking forward to working with you. So, around the applause. I'd also like to thank those members who applied and were unsuccessful. Thank you very much for showing interest in our council. Commiserations. I'm sure you would have been excellent council members as well. And please don't get too disheartened. And hopefully we'll see you next year applying yet again for a position on our council. So thank you for that. So at this point, I'm opening up the floor and online as well to any items for information or matters arising that anyone wants to raise questions about. Okay. Looks like we're silent on that one. Okay, any other business? Any questions or comments from any attendees here? Any questions you like? Again, online, any further questions for AOB? Has our meeting been that uncontentious? Has to be a first. Okay, okay. Just if I may engage in a few parting words before we wrap up for today. Again, just to emphasize, we are a membership organization. We exist from you and for you. And it's nice to see that our membership continues to grow. How many have we at this point? I think we're up to 4,500. 4,600. Wow. So we're up a bit from even from last year. As always, your participation is vital. So please get involved in some way, small or large, if you can. Just having a conversation there earlier about the fact that our council is full of 20 psychologists, which is great. But we're really kind of guys who have any other kind of backgrounds and anything else that could lend their expertise, be it from business or legal or HR or accountancy or whatever. We were lucky at the moment, I think, to have one member of our council who is from a HR background, and having him there can be immensely useful for our kind of capacity to think through stuff of that nature. So not only your psychology background is useful, but if you have any other background as well, it could be very, very helpful to us, or in some of our subcommittees or subcommittees that we that exists across ourselves. Anyway, just a small shout out for that. Please use your voice and influence to reach out to us, ask questions, make useful suggestions to us, get involved, be heard. I think we faced an interesting and challenging near future with the development of Cordu and how our collective organization will eventually find a way to coexist. As you know, Cora will be giving a presentation here at 5. If I'd known this AGM was going to be so quick, I would have brought them in from 4. So apologies on that. We had to leave the space anyway. Anyway, that will give you an opportunity to hear from them their proposal. I think all proposals are interesting. I think me personally, it's better than I anticipated and not as good as I hoped for. So it's always going to fall through. But I think every proposal is going to probably land like that. Some of you probably like it, some of you don't. Anyway, you will hear directly from them at 5 o'clock. They'll give a presentation, and I believe afterwards they'll open up the floor to any questions and answers you may have about them. So no point in asking. They'll be here themselves, and you'll get the opportunity to hear from them and again pose any kind of questions. Just to reassure you that as soon as the presentation is over, we will be reaching out to all divisions and SIGs and anyone else who's interested to seek your input about what you hear and any concerns you have, and we will collectively as a council put together a position on the presentation and forward that to them. So we're really keen to hear your point of view on this one. It's a big issue, registration. It's an important one, but there's going to be some negotiations needed to make sure that we can keep everyone, if possible, within the same camp. So again, many thanks to those council members who have retired. Best of luck with your future. Maybe we see you some point in the distant future coming back and rejoining us. Welcome to our new council members. Delighted to have you on board. Some are familiar to me, some are not, but it's going to be interesting. And as I said, for those who have been successful and not, may I thank you for your interest in putting your name forward. Finally, may I extend my warm thanks to all the PSI staff who are here and have created the foundation on which this AGM has stood. Your input and efforts are greatly appreciated. Thank you. I also extend my thanks to the staff of DV4 for letting me hear myself a few times repeatedly. Actually, fundamentally, for the ability of facilitating this hybrid meeting. Thank you very much indeed. Our annual conference is coming up soon, November 24. Schedule is already out, lots of stuff on it. I hope you find it interesting and stimulating. I hope some of you can make it, and I'll have the opportunity hopefully to see you there, many of you as possible. Unless there's any final comment from anyone,
Thank you, Warren.
speak or forever hold your peace. Okay, on that note, I will formally close this AGM.